That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And tonight we're celebrating a very big milestone anniversary. It's the 75th anniversary of Cinderella, the movie that brought Walt Disney Animation Studios back from the brink of war torn almost destruction. Dragon, this is a big milestone, both as far as the movie is concerned and the anniversary. It's kind of crazy to think that this movie's this old. Well, we got some comments. I will throw the comments between the our opening statements here and the background that we've got on this movie. So Dragon, I'll just throw it to you first. What's your overall take on this fine film that we have?
So, it has been forever since I really, truly revisited Cinderella start to finish. I mean, I don't know, possibly going back to, I honestly I don't even know if I have Cinderella on DVD because I watched the VHS of it clearly. So that's going as far back as I can vividly remember watching it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's but that's the thing because you watch it once and it is so ingrained in the culture, you just know it. This is the DNA of the classic fairy tales. You know, um, this has a solid moral. It's very artful, and again, 50s Disney was so iconic. That's what I'm saying. Like 50s Disney, man.
That
That
was
was
the
just
era of Mary Blair, like that run from Cinderella to Alice in Wonderland to Peter Pan.
yeah. So it's just it's this is like an era of Disney that was adapting the classics and really making them their own. That was kind of the initial. That was kind of Disney's sweet spot, and that was kind of where they kind of burst onto the scene with we're going to take kind of the classic stories and we're going to basically we're going to redefine them and basically make you think of Disney before you think of the actual books.
Mm-hmm.
And very successful in that regard. And so that's the thing. So I think when I look back on this movie, fine tooth comb, the core story I think holds up. I really do like the core story. However, I gotta say, rewatching it, there was a lot of filler.
Yeah, that's always been the issue, and we'll get
I
into it.
I was not crazy, but I remember being like a little like blasé about it in the past. Like, oh man, that really gets in the way of our pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool story here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last time I really kind of revisited Cinderella was the 2015 remake, which to its credit, one of the few decent Disney remakes.
It's decent. I don't know.
Well, Tiki's
I get,
allergic to mid, but I liked it.
I'm allergic to it. There's things about it. It's definitely one of the better live action remakes for sure. It's definitely up there. It's
That's what I'm saying.
I
They
remember
made
not
very
really liking
solid.
it when it first came out, but it's like I had no idea how bad it was really going to get on the live
It's
action
it,
remake
it's
front.
really weird that after watching this, I have a greater appreciation for the 2015
I,
film
I
in a
just
weird
I had
way.
no idea that we had like fucking like sleep paralysis demon dwarves in our future.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the weird thing. I want to be clear. I still really do like this. And again, look, it was like in terms of like the iconic princess story. I mean, Cinderella's up there. Cinderella's like,
There's actually a big part of the background that kind of goes into that, but I'll get there when I get there.
so I guess in a weird sense, it's still, I'd say it holds up and also is rewatching it even kind of redeems some of the later stuff we've done in Cinderella. So, worked out.
So yeah, I definitely like this one. It's never been one of my favorites of the Walt era. Like, I mean, as far as like the Mary Blair ones, this is like just because it's so traditional and the fairy tale aesthetic, you kind of forget that this is Mary Blair sometimes. Not when you're watching the movie itself, because when you're watching the movie itself, there are a lot of striking backgrounds and imagery that we'll get into. That I think the background work on this movie is like really underappreciated. But I'll take an Alice in Wonderland or a Peter Pan any day of the week over this. But I mean, that being said, this definitely holds a significant place in Disney history, obviously, and I kind of feel like I appreciate this movie more on that level than anything else. I honestly think the fact that it is so simple and boils down to just like the core elements of what makes a traditional fairy tale, like that almost has its own charm in a way. But yes, I will agree that definitely the worst element of this movie is the damn mice. They're fun in small doses for sure. And I remember as a kid, I had the Cinderella song. I believe that song was like on more than one of the infamous Disney sing-along VHSs back in the day. So that was kind of like an entry point for me. I remember watching this quite a few times, like in my VHS run. Like it definitely wasn't like on repeat the same way that something like Disneyland Fun was on repeat, but it was definitely like up there as far as like stuff that I'd like to watch. So definitely probably one of the Walt era things I would rewatch the most, besides maybe Peter Pan. I think Peter Pan was like my go-to from the Walt era when I was a kid. Definitely. I mean, like I said, Dragon, it's almost hard to divorce the historical significance of this from the actual movie. Is it like a perfect film narratively? No.
No.
Does it have one of the best Disney villains? Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. We'll get there. Does it? I honestly think Cinderella does kind of hold her own as far as like just being like there might be other Disney princesses that have more complexity to them for sure. But I think I think with the simplicity of her, I think there is kind of just this. I honestly think she's kind of the perfect role model, and I think this whole stereotype of like, oh, Cinderella just waits around for all the good shit to happen to her. I'm like, did you not watch the first half of this movie, motherfuckers? Do you not see all the bullshit this poor girl has to go through? So I've never understood that criticism of the movie, frankly. If anything, it's the prince that's just kind of like, yeah, I'm here. Like I've got like 2 more minutes of screen time than Ferdinand over there in Snow White.
Wait, his name? I know you've said this
His name is
before.
Ferdinand, yes.
That's so stupid. Why would his name be Ferdinand? Like, of all the names you could have given that guy.
Right. Okay, so yeah, we got comments out the wazoo, guys. I don't even know if I'm gonna have time for all of them. Little Blue just sent us up. Bippity boppity boo, indeed, Eli. Richard's Victim saying, I don't know how hot of a take this is, but this is my favorite traditional Disney princess movie.
Also, Quentin Tarantino's favorite.
Really? Nice.
No. I'm just saying, Tiki, it would be Quentin Tarantino's
Oh, God. Oh, you... Oh. I thought you were going to say something about how Tarantino really appreciated, like, the artfulness of...
Well, in all seriousness, though,
the simplicity of it and the historical significance.
I mean, it does beg the question, could he have grown...
No, you just went with the foot joke.
Yeah, I tried to keep it classy.
Okay, seriously? The scenes with the stepsisters trying on the slipper in particular, it's like, yeah. Okay, anyways. So Richard's Victim says, just in terms of entertainment, I think Sleep Beauty is the best. So I think Richard's Victims talk about like the 3 traditional, like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella. And I will agree, I think Cinderella is probably the strongest out of those. I mean, I don't know. It's Snow White. I mean, Snow White definitely has some holes in it, but man, that thing was really ahead of its time.
Snow White still holds up in terms of like just again the.
I honestly think I'd probably have to give the edge to Snow White. I'd rather watch this than Sleeping Beauty, even though I agree.
Cinderella doesn't have a grumpy. Okay, that's the difference.
Grumpy, you do care.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have like we literally killed her off and we brought her back through. Well, again, just questionable means. We brought her back.
Oh, come on. Oh, no, I don't even want to get into that. It's like, are we supposed to just leave her dead?
No. I'm not saying that.
Give consent?
No. I'm not saying that. I mean, this the whole like really the magic kiss wakes her up. That's what I mean. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about like the semantics of the kiss. I'm saying literally the kiss itself.
Colby is basically agreeing with us. It's like more like a whole bunch of mouse shenanigans with princess subplot. So it is that, but I appreciate the princess stuff, and I think the mouse stuff can be fun. Again, more in small doses, but we'll get there. Kokia says, I actually do like Cinderella. I think the live action version is better, but the animated version is
I think
bad.
there's maybe a compelling argument for live action after rewatching this. There might be. I emphasis on might. Obviously, we're missing the artistry of the original, but I don't know.
I wouldn't go that far, man. This
I
is
don't
just
know.
such a classic. This is such a stone cold
I'm not
classic.
saying it's going to beat the original. I'm just saying there is an argument. I think there might be a fair argument for the remake.
Kogia saying live action Alice in Wonderland is the best adaptation of Alice in Wonderland and is better than the. Oh man, okay, Kogias, like you just put out your video on your top 5 videos on us, so it's like I appreciate you, man. That might be one of your takes that I disagree with the most out of all the hot takes you have ever had.
It's just gonna put up a new video. It's gonna say, "Let me tell you about the channels I don't like. I don't like So You Want to Be an Imagineer."
No, it's just like there is so much that the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movie just inherently gets wrong about being a Wonderland adaptation. I'm sorry.
It's lacking color. There's the first one.
That's one of the many things, yes. Alice in Wonderland should not have a fucking chosen one prophecy story. That's another. The Mad Hatter does not get involved in war politics. That's another. Anyways.
All
right. But we still love you, Kogios. Keeper Colby says, I'd argue Jungle Book. Oh, as far as the best adaptation, Richard's Victims. Oh, the best live action remake. Yeah, Jungle Book's solid. I'm not as into Jungle Book as a lot of people are. I think I may be over.
Yeah, every time these Disney remakes come out, half the time you're actually glowing about them, then you turncoat on once the consensus just says, you know what, we deem this not good.
I mean, that's not really true. I haven't.
That often happens. I'm saying you get really excited about something like Jungle Book.
On The Little Mermaid. I mean, I think The Little Mermaid is one of the better ones. That definitely has one of the better performances. I do genuinely like Cruella just as a B grade. I'm sorry, Dragon. Remind me that director's name?
Craig Gillespie.
Craig Gillespie, yeah. It's like a B grade Gillespie movie, but it's still a Craig Gillespie movie. It's still solid. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other live action stuff that's come out that I've actually. Aladdin, I think, is like okay. I don't think that's nearly as bad as something like Beauty and the Beast or Lion King was as far as live action remakes go. Anyways, Maleficent is better than Sleeping Beauty, in my opinion. Maleficent is one of the ones I have not actually sat down and watched. I have not seen either of the Maleficent movies. Richard's Victim says I've never actually seen that one. Okay, Eli says I've seen live action remakes of Cinderella, Jungle Book. Both are pretty good ones. Okay, we're gonna have to kind of get through these comments. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing if there's sorry guys, there's way too much. There's
a lot of this is them talking amongst themselves.
That's true. That's true. You know. Oh God, Eli says Tarantino's version of Cinderella would have Cinderella losing her shit and striking her stepmother.
Yeah, she'd break the slipper and then stab Tremaine in the neck.
I think that's about the most graphic I've ever seen Eli get over anything. I think that's the first time I've actually seen him swear in the comments. Okay, Richard's Victim says, okay, Dragon won me over with the grumpy point.
There you go.
Fight once again. There you go.
I think there are other points, but yes, the grumpy point.
Yeah. All right. The Prince is much more developed and interesting character in the live action Cinderella.
See, that's what I'm talking about. There is a fair argument. That's what I mean to you. We'll get into it, but let's just
Okay, so I'm surprised Dan Schneider never did.
All right, now
boy. All right. See? Oh God. Oh. I'm sure at least in one of those fucking sitcoms there was a Cinderella parody episode. I'm sure of it.
Right, let's just
Okay, anyways. All right, so Dragon. Obviously, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, major money-making hit for Disney when it first premiered in 1937. And it was kind of off to the races. Disney was developing a lot of different concepts, a lot of which were going to be used further on in the 50s. So, for example, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, both very, very early concepts to be adapted into a Disney movie. They were definitely on the drawing room, and as was Cinderella. Cinderella was being developed right alongside them. But of course, Out of it came a couple factors came that kind of derailed a lot of these movies for quite a while. The biggest one was, of course, World War II. Totally stifled the studio. The army literally took over a lot of the animation division and basically like forced them to make the propaganda films. The propaganda films were also just like a way for them to keep afloat and make money and literally keep the animators employed. Of course, during the war era, they did the package films, which were middling successes at best. A couple of them did okay at the box office, but more or less, it was kind of like the best that those package films could hope to do would be break even at the box office. And that wasn't really a great way to keep the studio lights on. And of course, another factor is that, yeah, Snow White was a big success. Literally every other movie in that original golden age, Fantasia, Bambi, Pinocchio, the only one that actually made money for them was Dumbo, and Dumbo was made on the cheap. But those three I mentioned, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Bambi, all three really, really super ambitious movies. All three of them very, very high budgets. All three of them, while iconic at the time, absolutely flopped at the box office on their initial release for different reasons. Pinocchio, I think it was kind of a matter of just like it was so radically different from Snow White, people didn't really know what to make of it at the time. Fantasia definitely bombed because of the format it was trying to be presented in. It was essentially like a traveling roadshow production when it first released, so there just wasn't a lot of screens that even supported the format that Walt Disney wanted to present that movie in. And then I think Bambi kind of flopped just because Bambi was just a very heavy movie. And unlike Dumbo, Dumbo was kind of escapist entertainment. I think people just weren't really looking to see a movie like Bambi when that came out. It was just obviously like, I think Bambi out of the original five is the most heavy-handed and serious out of them. And that was the one that was closest to the war. So out of the war, it was essentially make or break. It was essentially like, we got to do this. We got to do something that's going to not just make its money back, but be a huge success. And if it doesn't land, if it's not a huge success, we might at the very least be out of the animation department. Like the Disney
company, the feature animation department.
Yeah, exactly. The Disney company would still be around. At the time, they were trying to also experiment with like live action releases and stuff. That was when the live action releases were starting to get trickled out. Who knows what would have become of the parks at that point? I don't think they probably would have had the budget for the parks. But fortunately, they set their sights on Cinderella specifically because it was an old-fashioned fairy tale. It was what worked. It was kind of, honestly, Dragon, it was kind of like Disney's original, like, you know what, fuck it. Let's go back to the reliable material that we know is actually going to make money. It was literally like Disney's first move like that. But obviously it did work. They assembled an Avengers-level crew of animators, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston, the works, to just kind of go all out with the character animation here. That's why you have such memorable character animation, the likes of like Lucifer and Lady Tremaine and the Stepsisters. Just all of them are just like very, very on point, very expressive. Probably the most expressive character animation that had been done up until that point. Of course, famously, Mary Blair returned after having previously worked on the Goodwill South American films, the Good Neighbor South American films, Saludos de Amigos and Dragon.
Three Caballeros.
Thank you. She returned to do background art on this, background art and layouts. And Dragon, there's a lot of interesting tidbits about the voice cast I'm not sure you're aware of. The big thing that I thought was really interesting is that the uncredited narrator
was
in the prologue was Betty Lou Gerson. Now, Dragon, do you know who this woman also voiced?
Yes, I do.
Tell him.
Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, isn't that trippy? Like 3 or 4 movies before Cruella de Vil, we got like this same woman just doing like the most gentle, like Cinderella was an innocent girl, and she lived with her wicked stepmother.
Then turns, I'm gonna skin all the puppies alive.
Right.
Skin them.
Oh man.
Make
Oh,
him into a coat.
another really charming fact that I found out. I mean, it's a little bittersweet. Verna Felton Dragon, of course, the fairy godmother. She had been around the Disney Studios for a long time as a character actress. I think most famously, she was the voice of the lead monarch elephant in Dumbo. But of course, the animators were basically like, yeah, Dumbo was her character acting work. Fairy Godmother was who Verna Felton really was. Walt and Verna Felton were very close, and Dragon, they actually died on the exact same day.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, you're fucking just quizzing me at this point.
Pretty much.
I love how whenever you ask me to do the background, it's literally just a quiz. It's like you could do this if you wanted to. You have all the info, but you're just like, how good is he gonna be?
Yeah, pretty much.
June Foray plays Lucifer, which is an uncredited role and kind of trippy.
There you go.
All right, so obviously the film was a smash hit. It saved Walt Disney Animation Studios. Cinderella Castle is, of course, a big hallmark of the Disney parks, arguably as iconic to the company as Mickey Mouse. And yeah, I think that's about it, Dragon, unless I missed anything.
That's good enough.
All right. Okay, let's see. Gonna go back again, folks. We don't want to go dwell on the comments too much, but
you try to avoid the stuff that's them talking amongst themselves.
Right. Fantasia was too ambitious, but I mean, the fact that Fantasia is as ambitious as it is kind of what gives it its sort of like landmark quality. I mean, Fantasia, I don't think Fantasia is ever going to be topped as far as like, this is an animated movie that's made purely for the artistic ambition of it all. Yeah, we don't talk about the Pinocchio live action remake. That was definitely one of the worst ones for sure. Poor Tom Hanks. That was a bad year for Tom Hanks. I think that was the same year that Elvis came out.
Yeah, I think so.
And I know you're a fan of Elvis, but you can't even defend Tom Hanks in that movie.
Look, I think he did the best with what he was given, but what he was given was not good direction.
Dragon, like
it's not Tom Hanks. I want to be clear. It's not Hanks' fault. He was given bad direction.
The fifth time that Tom Hanks was like, "Hey Elvis, why don't you come on stage and do Here Comes Santa Claus? Here comes Santa Claus."
He's so obsessed with Christmas.
Okay, Verna Felton died one day before Walt died. Actually, thank you, Eli. Of course, you of all people would know that. Joking. Eli, you're just always the first one that I hear about celebrity deaths from, so. Okay, Disney will never have the balls to do something like Fantasia again. This is facts. I mean, I think the closest that we've gotten recently is something like, Dragon, was it, what was that stop motion, like, robot movie? Like, or, do you know what I'm talking about? The stop motion movie, you watched it.
Stop motion robot movie.
Maybe it's not robots, but it's like a horror movie or something in stop motion.
Oh, do you mean Mad God?
Yeah, Mad God. Yeah, that's
Mad God.
Yeah. Like that probably has some energy of like just sheer artistic ambition.
I mean, absolutely. No, for sure. Again, that was Phil Tippett's masterpiece.
Sure.
Now, mind you, again, it was more driven by, I think, visuals and just kind of atmosphere than it was story. But yeah, it was, it opens with like, the whole Tower of Babel thing, which is like the actual biblical, Tower of Babel thing. It's like it feels very Strakowski-esque.
I guess speaking of like classical compositions and stuff, like, or no, I'm sorry, Strakowski, like that was Sleeping Beauty used classical compositions, not Cinderella. Cinderella was original music. Speaking of which, let's transition. Breaking down the movie, I will say that I've always thought that the Cinderella theme song, not one of the better like title character theme songs in a Disney movie.
Yeah, I mean the big take.
I mean, it basically like boils down to like, I know this isn't the exact lyrics, but it basically boils down to like, Cinderella, you're a lovely person, Cinderella. I don't know. It's just very, it's kind of bland.
Okay, I think the bigger takeaway from the opening, Tiki, is I love the old school storybook framing device that we had in the old and kind of especially 50s era Disney.
Yeah.
I love that it really set the stage for this is Disney basically presenting like, okay, this is what we're aiming to do right now in our features. We're basically adapting, the book on the shelf, and it's the aspiration to be the definitive storybook adaptation. So it's already building atmosphere, and also serves as a really good transition point as we kind of saw Winnie the Pooh, but we kind of see it here too, where it's like we have like we go from stills to animation, so it feels like a storybook
Mhm,
come to
mhm.
life. Pretty good.
And while we're getting the stills, we do have that Cruella de Vil voiceover, which I'm never gonna be able to watch this movie and not think of that ever again.
And the
Honestly.
Mary Blair art.
Yes, yes, yes. Very much so. Very much so. All right. Then we get into the first iconic song of the movie, "A Dream Is the Wish Your Heart Makes." Of course.
Which Disney then adopted as one of their main theme songs, second to Jiminy Cricket.
Sure. I've never really been that crazy about the song. It's nice. It's nice. For me, it honestly kind of feels more like it kind of feels like a half-baked attempt to like recapture the magic of "Someday My Prince Will Come."
I think this came before that though. Oh wait, no, sorry, not.
Not
I'm
come
sorry,
before
no,
"Someday My
no,
Prince Will
no, no. I
Come."
was thinking of. Sorry, I was thinking of. But there's another song in the Disney Channel that reminds me of "A Dream Is Wish Your Heart Makes." It's the Aurora song from Sleeping Beauty.
Oh yeah, no, I could see
I
that
was
too.
jumping there for a second. I forgot. Like, Fred, you literally said, okay, you the principal. But I'm with you though. That was the other one I was thinking of though. So yeah, there's a lot of that in there.
But I mean, again, it kind of goes back to the whole thing where it's like, and I think it's really interesting if you break it down. And another thing that I kind of forgot to mention about the background that we can get into here with the mice, it was actually a little bit of like a haunted mansion, like scary versus funny debate of like, essentially, like, do we want to make this movie elegant or do we want to make it like funny and approachable? And there were two camps on that, and so that's why the stuff with the mice essentially feels like its own movie, because essentially there were two different animation crews and writers like working on those two sides.
I'll tell you what it really feels like, Tiki. I'm not saying you're wrong about that. Because obviously, there probably is like that. There's that debate going on in the room, but it ultimately feels like it's kind of the kids' movie compromise that Walt had to stick with, whether he liked it or not. Where it was like just based on how the other movies had been performing, where Snow White, mind you, you have the dwarves, and that's basically your foot in the door. But everything else, though, is pretty much okay. I'm telling the story I want to tell, and like the consequences be darned. And beyond, it's like a thing of where he bumped up against that, and again, it just feels like okay, we need some kids fare in here, Walt. We need something that we know for a fact will pander to the kid audience.
Right, right. And it's almost kind of like, did we not learn the lesson the last time of like, again, like I said, Bambi, beautiful movie, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it is a very heavy movie. It is like very, very artistically driven. So it's like, yeah.
So you imagine someone explaining this to Walt. Walt's just going, "What kid turn? What the kid turns into a donkey? It's horrifying. Kids will love that." Like Walt, I know it's great, but we need the jingle some keys here, man.
Mhm, mhm.
So essentially, that's like it feels like he kind of lost the battle on the mice, and again, ultimately, it feels like I see what they're going for. The mice serve two roles in the movie that do actually pay off nicely, but it feels like had they been used more sparingly, it would have been more appreciated. Or at the very least, had they not been so kind of pandery. For example, was it Jock and Gus or Jack and Gus?
Jock.
Jock, yeah. So Jock and Gus, very
Very cool. Very like, I'm honestly surprised that Jock and Gus, especially Gus, weren't designed during like the Hamtaro Pokemon, like cutesification of anime period of time. Because don't they feel like that, right?
well.
Don't they kind of feel like that sort of like cloying, like, oh, how cute?
Well, that's what I'm
Like
saying. They
the way that
feel
Gus talks has always annoyed the shit
well.
out of me,
That's what I
right?
wanted to say. So the mice. Here's the thing: the character, the basis of the character, like a duo, that's not, I don't think that's a bad idea, but making them like they're almost unwatchable with those voices, man. Like just repeating their names constantly, like Gus and Cinderella and that Cinderella song. I don't know, it just doesn't. It just feels very much like they're designed to be cute before they're designed to be characters who happen to be cute, and it shows.
Exactly.
It's like where was I want some actual? I want to again. Where's my Gus? It feels like we want Gus to be grumpy, but we're not doing any of the legwork.
No, Gus is. Oh my God!
It
If
feels
Gus
like
is
okay,
grumpy,
we
it is a
have our
poor
comedic
man's
side,
grumpy, sir.
and again, this is the beginnings of this, where we have our side character, our comedic side character, and of course, it becomes a patented formula for Disney. But it's like, man, he's just there's no depth there at all.
Right, yeah.
He's fat and he's kind of stupid. That's pretty much it. Seriously, it's like he seems very inept. This the point being, these characters serve only two roles in this movie. Role one, the mice kind of lead the charge in making Cinderella the dress along with the other little creatures. Then, of course, our climax, and the climax is basically the thing all the animators and everyone got on board with it after Walt kind of whipped in the shape a little bit with the ending. So that's pretty much it. Like, okay, the tension of will the mice save Cinderella, which okay, we have to establish she knows the mice, she's nice to him. Okay, which by the way, yet another. It's kind of Cinderella riding on Snow White's coattails, if you really think about it. Also, I think Aurora had the same problem. There, all the early princesses, princesses. Anyway, you know what I mean. They it feels like they're just borrowing from. Well, this worked the first time, so kind to all animals. Get a rapport with them, which I don't know. I think it's nice on Cinderella, so I'll give it a pass. But Aurora's like, okay, guys, really 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, so the sad tale of Cinderella. Which, by the way, I want you rewatched it recently, obviously, as did I. So I missed this, and I want you to tell me if maybe you remember it. Did we cover the origin namesake for Cinderella? Or did we glaze over that entirely?
I think we glaze over it.
Me too. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought they didn't mention it. The name. It's supposed to be Ella, but she cleans the chimney, so Cinder, or she's all dirty.
No, they definitely don't mention that. Yeah.
It's really weird that we don't even origin for why the character's
I
name
think the
is
most
that.
we get of that sort of flavor is just like when the stepsisters are like, "Don't listen to her. She's just the maid." Essentially,
That's
like
barely anything. Like
we get reference to the fact that like the sisters like treat her like shit, sure, but like, yeah, we're definitely not like spending time in that like we should be.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So Cinderella, nice girl, widowed father. The guy, he was good. Together they were a good and moral pair, and he meets Lady Tremaine. Presumably she's using him, and she kind of seduces him basically for status, or just
This
like
is
not
another
being.
thing that the live action remake does do kind of a better job at. I'll give it that.
But all I want to do is just give the live action remake the props that it's due in terms of we looked
The
at the
live action
original.
remake isn't nearly as atmospheric as the
True.
like that. That's the hang up that I
You're
have
right.
with
That's what's lacking. I have no
Yeah.
disagreement there. All I'm saying is that let's strip it. I have appreciation for it looking back on now because okay, I see all the padding that we kind of wasted in the original, and we filled it with stuff we kind of needed in the original, but of course minus the aesthetic. That is the trade-off,
Right.
Anyway, so point being, Cinderella, is after her father passes, she's stuck with the horrible stepfamily. And this is I'm going to read into this too much, mind you. I wonder if there was a layer to this movie at the time that it was made of. It's kind of the 50s stigma of divorce and step parenthood, where it's like, step parents, step siblings, evil, not good. It's a bad situation. It's not the nuclear family, therefore we are against it.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, there's a couple of outdated things in this movie. I mean, one of the big ones I noticed was during the Cinderella thing, there's a very blatant like, leave the sewing to the women.
God. Yep.
Like, yeah, that's not a good look.
So again, the core hallmark of the movie that we need here is like the building blocks of the big Disney castle, if you will, Cinderella's castle. The girl remains chipper and optimistic despite all the crap that's going on in her life. In a sense, it's how her father lives on within her, with her being the nice girl. Her, basically imbuing her father's teachings onto the world, or at least onto herself. And this is like a little flicker in the darkness.
Right, right.
Yeah. So like I said, it's like we've kind of been going on here. Like the mice don't seem to hold up. That seems to be the main flaw of the film. It's just nothing but there's so much padding because the movie's only like a little over an hour, mind
It's
you.
like 70 minutes, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
And at a minimum, this mice is a minimum. At a minimum, a third of the movie is all mice stuff. At a minimum, it might be more. Honestly, that's what I'm saying. It's barely any. You know what it feels like? It feels kind of like the Abbott and Costello movies in terms of like the Marx Brothers, the Exxons, whatever you want. Maybe not the Marx Brothers, but like Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello. You would have the old comedy movies, and you're there for Abbott and Costello. You're there for the comedian or the Hope and Crosby or whatever. You're there for them, but again, to sell it as a movie because it's all vaudeville routines with the comedians that you want to see. They pad out, okay, there's a love story, there's a couple that you don't care about, and there's like maybe a love triangle, and then we intercut with, oh, look, there's Abbott and Costello getting the shenanigans. Oh, this is really funny. And then,
Right.
like Buck Privates, like the movie Buck Privates. That's it. It's just like, I guess what I'm saying is it's kind of like, it's like, hey, here's a cartoon. Look at the funny mice.
It's essentially key jangling, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They do serve plot relevance, I guess, but
only in 2 spots though.
Isn't it interesting that like the animals in Snow White serve basically the same function, and they're definitely not a distraction, but they're still kind of like a quintessential part of Snow White's identity? Is like, even Enchanted kind of makes fun of the whole like Snow White being in tune with animals thing.
I mean, look, here's the thing. You boil down Snow White.
What? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to get this out. Another thing that really bothers me is I feel like we kind of go back and forth on like sometimes Cinderella can just like fluently understand what the mice are saying, and sometimes it's like, just kind of like open to interpretation. And that drives my OCD brain crazy. We are not consistent with that.
So with Snow White, think about this. You have the animals basically boiled down. The animals basically they direct her to where she needs to go, and that's pretty much their main plot points. They basically, okay, so she's.
But then they also help the dwarves in the end, and they contribute. They help clean the house. They contribute here and there.
That's what I'm saying. They're not getting in the way. They're not in your face. They
just as much as the mice do, honestly, as far as plot happens.
That's it. They assist the plot in the way that they should, and they're not getting in the way. Versus the mice, who are basically the dumbed down version of what we do with the animals in Snow White. It's like we don't want to animate all those animals. We're just going to make it all mice.
I'm going to fact check something right here because I kind of have a theory.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh yeah, no, okay. So Tom and Jerry was the first Tom and Jerry shorts came out 10 years before this movie. Mm-hmm. That's got to be an influence, right? It's got to be. There's no way it's not.
Well, I mean, they mentioned that Tiki in the backstory.
Right, yeah.
There was cat and mouse shenanigans were in.
It's just it's so blatantly obvious that that's what they're doing,
I'm trying to remember.
It's kind of like how when Chicken Little came out, it's like, hey guys, we can do modern pop culture versions of storybook characters too, and it's like, no, honey. You can't. You're not cool.
But we're scrubs.
Oh God. All right. Anyways.
Just imagine a pathetic Chicken Little just looking up, but we're scrubs.
I just love the visual of like Big Papa Bob Iger just like having to play like supportive but firm dad to Chicken Little, like, Chicken Little, you gave it your best shot. You were one of the last remnants of the Michael Eisner era. Like, yeah, we're basic. Zach Braff, Chicken Little, was like, are you just gonna put us in the vault and forget about us?
No.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mix words. That's like basically your legacy is gonna come down to a meme about your dad being a villain. That's essentially all anyone's ever going to talk about with your movie. I'm sorry. Well,
we're not putting you in the vault, but we're locking you out of the Magic Kingdom.
but but Bob, you made a big balloon out of me in California Adventure, remember? I was at the front entrance, Bob.
Yeah, but that balloon was paid by the residuals, my friend.
Oh man, all right.
So that ship has sailed. That money's been spent. You have to go now. I'm sorry. Also, we're gonna need the glasses. We need that prescription so we can, kind of like, keep things afloat. We're desperate for money right now.
I mean, we got Bolt coming out, and Bolt is sure to be like a big hit that everyone's going to remember for years to
I mean,
come.
Susie Essman needs to get paid,
Oh God!
or else she's gonna yell at us and scream obscenities. We don't want that.
Okay.
We're a family network.
All right. This has kind of evolved into like a full blown skit at this point.
Oh, okay. The point again. Well, also just again, I hate trashing him, but I'm more addressing the Disney company as a whole than I am the man himself.
Right.
Anyway, so let's talk about something a strength of this movie: character introductions.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think even the mice do have a decent introduction, like where they're just waking up Cinderella, the whole dream. Like, we wouldn't really get right into A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes. Like, we don't waste any time on that. But of course, I assume the introduction you're talking about, there's a couple big ones. I really like the prince. I really like how the prince is built up, but we'll get there. But of course, Lady Tremaine, one of the best introductions to any Disney villain. I mean, just iconic.
In the background, you did mention the rotoscoping, right?
I did not.
Bad Tiki.
I know.
All right, tell them about the rotoscoping.
I mean, there's another thing is, well, I mean, there's not much to tell. People know.
Just name drop it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's the Ralph Bakshi thing.
Yeah, I'm saying the fact they used,
of course, when you take the live action models and you draw over them, to get a really fluid animation. Dragon, The Day the Earth Blew Up has an amazing meta gag involving rotoscoping. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but you'll know it when you see it, and it's unbelievable.
Nice.
That's all I'll say.
All right. So so basically,
one other thing as far as like background that I forgot about is that the voice of Cinderella was actually. Did you know this? That she was actually the original scratch singing voice.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she was the voice that they basically recorded. Like, hey, we want a girl who basically sounds like this, and Walt was basically like, well, this sounds perfect. This is our Cinderella. Why don't we just get her? And so, yeah.
All right. Well, Walt's just known for cutting the Gordian knot, don't you think?
For what?
For cutting the Gordian knot. Yeah, Alexander the Great, the Gordian knot. He cuts through the simplest solution.
I don't think I've ever heard that expression before. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, so uncultured. Anyway. Anyway, so again, Frank Thomas, he basically, so the 9 Old Men, what they really excelled at here is
this is like a quintessential 9 Old Men movie for sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They really strutted their stuff here, aside from obviously the original stuff. But I mean, here they basically took the rotoscoping as a starting point, and then they really added personality, all the little touches, especially Frank Thomas on Lady Tremaine.
Yeah, oh God, Frank Thomas. I mean, it's like Lady Tremaine is such a perfect character for him because he just does expressions so well, like expressions and gestures.
I love the restraint, but he kind of took the limitations. Yeah, rotoscoping is kind of a limitation for an animator.
It is for sure, but I think it works really well with Lady Tremaine. I think it gives her an air of like almost kind of like larger than life, kind of like authority, if that makes sense. Like, she's animated in such a realistic way that she almost kind of feels too real.
I have a theory as to why it feels so real. Okay. You mentioned the key jingling philosophy. I think it is like a kind of a primordial, just kind of like an ingrained thing in the audience, young or old, where it's the fact that she is so restrained in the animation, but so commanding in her presence, and she doesn't have to move about it, but just the tone in the animation and like her saying, "Do it again."
Oh man,
again, it's getting into that either evil or just really strict.
You know what else is like just really, really juicy about her is that she's really good at kind of like just dangling just a sliver of hope.
The if.
Fuck with Snow White, you know?
Yep.
I said if.
To quote Pain and Panic, if is good. But yeah, that's the thing. It was just the fact that it's like that. It's like the whole like the dread of any child to either a harsh parent or a step parent or something. Just the whole like
You know what I
do
think
it
is the single worst thing that Cinderella goes through as far as like the day-to-day chore stuff?
What?
When she's scrubbing the floors next to the stairs and Lucifer, the little shit, just like tracks all the mud and his paw prints like all over the area that she just scrubbed.
Yeah.
Like Dragon, I've been doing a lot of like, you know, like scrubbing the walls and getting stuff out of carpets and stuff for my mom because she's trying to sell her house. So let me tell you, man, if I would literally, I mean, I'm not going to condone animal violence. I wouldn't actually murder the cat, but I would be tempted, Dragon. The thought would cross my mind.
See, what you do is you grab the cat by its feet, and then you use the bucket that you were sudsing the floor with, and you don't kill it, but you just like you dunk it in there just to scare it, and then you use it to scrub the floor that it messed up. That's how it'll learn.
I will say I do think Lucifer is kind of the saving grace of the mice plot line. I do think he is a very entertaining side villain. I think he's kind of like one of the iconic like Disney villain sidekicks.
Well, he works so well because he has all the movement that Lady Tremaine does not have.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it's like what if Blofeld's cat got it done?
That is a good comparison. Oh,
yeah. Anyway, yes, of course, also the stepsisters. I believe Lucifer and the stepsister, just the stepsisters. That was Ollie Johnson.
I think so.
I know the stepsisters were Ollie Johnson. I think the cat was like either based on his cat or I forget it was him.
I'm pretty sure the cat was Ollie Johnston as well. I don't remember off the top of my head. It feels like an Ollie Johnston character, though. It definitely feels like it. And it would be very appropriate if Frank Thomas animated Tremaine and then Ollie Johnston animated the side.
Well, no, that's true. That's thing I know for a fact. Johnson animated the stepdaughters because he had this whole thing where he was struggling with oh man, how
the stepdaughters are great. I mean, I think the stepdaughters are the most effective comedy in the movie as far as just like the
worse they look, the better Cinderella looks by comparison.
Right. I love the one of my favorite sequences in the movie, and this is kind of like a little bit of an understated moment, but it's the singing lesson where the stepsisters just sound obviously awful, and then you get Cinderella and you get that like lovely little surreal sequence with her in the bubbles as she's singing.
I love that bubble moment.
Yeah, it's a lovely little piece of like this movie is like compared to something like Pinocchio or Fantasia or even obviously Dumbo with the pink elephants. Of course, plenty of the package films have surreal elements too. This movie is a little light on the surrealism, but it's nice that it's there in at least one moment.
So again, the realistic qualities that really go to make the film feel authentic and just kind of I think really stand test of time is that it's this bit where the ugly stepsisters just all this jealousy towards Cinderella.
Also, I wonder if you had this too, but for me, it's almost hard to watch this film and not just like put the personality of Anastasia that we got in the sequels onto her and just be like, okay, Anastasia's like the slightly more sympathetic one, even though like that's clearly not the case when you actually watch this movie. But it's kind of hard. Like that is one of the few like Disney Toon sequel things I think that really does add to the canon. The fact that like Grisella is kind of just like the stone cold bitch, and then Anastasia is the one where it's like she's mostly just following in her sister and her mother's footsteps, but really if she was if someone were to point her in the right direction, like the nice baker man, she could change.
So that's the thing. It's just like the way Tremaine is treating Cinderella. Again, obviously there's like the real world kind of abuse thing that definitely I think ingrains a lot of people to the movie. I think across all walks of life, there's a perpetual universal sympathy for Cinderella. But I love that it's
I mean,
very
if
driven
anything, you could
by.
even look at it as like a neglectful boss, you know what I mean, or something like that. It doesn't even have to be a parental thing.
Oh, sure, but yeah, just the idea that they're jealous of her success. Essentially, they're jealous. Like she's being punished for not being ugly, like Tremaine's, like the step family. And ultimately, it's just kind of like she's being punished for being
I mean,
better
she's
than
being
them.
gaslit. That's the word for it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I want to tell you. Speaking of introductions, I want to talk about something that really I always forget about this moment, but I think it's one of the best pieces of comedy. Um, I love the king in this movie, Dragon.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you feel the same way.
No. The King's.
I think this is one of the best Disney kings. Just as far as I love how this guy is just he wants nothing more in life than to be a grandpa, and there's just something so endearing about that, you know.
I know. I'm with you. I really did love that, but I completely forgot about the grandpa focus on the King. I always knew I want to marry off my son, but I
That
thought it was
little
like.
dream that he has is just so fucking adorable.
I got to admit, though, it is adorable. Out of context, I can see a modern audience raking that over the coals.
Oh,
But
come
yes,
on. I mean, yes, but you know what? I mean, I don't
I
know.
look. I said I'm just saying I'm a
I
depraved
see
modern
what you're
audience.
saying, but at the same time, I think it's cute.
No,
We
look.
already established that he wants the grandkids. I see what
Yeah,
you're saying, though.
yeah.
If you just clip it out of
That's
context and
what
be
I
like,
mean. If you have like some jerk clip it out of context, like come on, like
right, right. But
regardless.
I also let's talk about the introduction of the prince. Do you remember the first time that we see the prince?
Well, I mean the photo. I mean like the portrait, right?
Yes, the portraits.
Leslie, the portrait gag is
That
priceless.
always catches me off guard whenever I rewatch the
There's a
movie.
growing distance between us.
And I love how like the main portrait of him is essentially like the quintessential image of what a stoic manly Disney prince should be.
By the way, if memory serves, I believe Milt Cole worked on the Prince.
That sounds about right.
He didn't have a lot to work with there. So I think Milt Cole, again, his main character was the Prince, who really didn't get much, sadly. But Milt Cole, by the way, for the kids, Brad Bird's mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Milt Cole, he does like a lot of the really fancy stuff too. Like I believe he animated the King, some of the Duke, and the fairy godmother.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. You can see all these kind of Cole-isms, like Cole over animates the hands
Sure.
in a good way. Yeah, but that's the thing. So I will say this
You can
again.
definitely see the over animated hands in the Duke for sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's all Milt Cole for days.
Mhm.
So again, we have it here, but we really expound upon it in the 2015 film too. For again, where the problem is the prince is completely underdeveloped in this movie. We get the portrait, then he dances with
The
Cinderella,
father
and,
literally gets more screen time than the prince.
which
The
is
Duke, I
ridiculous.
think, gets more screen time than the prince.
Look,
He
I like
certainly gets more screen time than the prince because he's like a major player in the climax.
yeah. We don't even say the prince's name. He's essentially Prince Charming. We don't say Prince Charming.
I think canonically, I think he is the one Disney prince that is canonically Prince Charming,
Yeah,
as Just Giglet did
but, yeah.
establish.
We don't say it though. Probably in the credits, but we don't say it.
Oh, I wonder if it is in the credits. I think in the credits it might just be the prince.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like it's very retroactive that we've called him Prince Charming.
Right.
Okay, regardless of this, so again, the big thing you always have to give credit to the 2015 one for is that again we developed the prince and more so the father-son relationship between the prince, which we kind of have from a distance here, but again, it is still the father is coming from a very.
I feel like we're going to get essentially what this movie was trying to do with the father-son stuff better in Sleeping Beauty. Even then, it's not great. It's not like a big focal point, but at least we see them interacting with each other in that movie.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's just a shame they don't interact at all in this movie. But again, 2015, we see the father passing away in that movie, and the prince has he kind of feels a way about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but again, we did like less of a grand. Now, mind you, I love the innocence of the grand. He just wants grandchildren before he goes. So we have kind of the stakes of he's an old man. That's why he's really pushing this. But we kind of had a dramatic context and later. Now, again, I'm not trying to just bring up left and right. I'm just saying like the prince is so underdeveloped. We have to shadow like, well, we did do that one other place.
Uh-huh.
So again, old man who wants his son to be happy and married with kids so he can be a grandpa, which is really sweet. The Duke's kind of a funny foil to the king, where the Duke's kind of the whipping boy of the king. And he throws out like the ball suggestions like a lark. He says, "That's brilliant. We're gonna do that.
Right.
Get all the maidens in the land. They're all gonna meet Prince Charming."
And again, when the Duke does come for the invitation, I think one of the cruelest things that Tremaine does is dangle that hope over Cinderella's head. Like, she knows damn well she will do everything in her power to make sure that it won't happen.
Again,
but the hope of it is just going to make it sting all the more than just being like, nah, you can't go.
and again, she's setting her up for failure, which to me is always the thing that gets under my skin. People set you up for failure like that, where they know they give you a goal like you could do this, but all the while knowing this will never happen.
Right.
But yeah, that's the thing. Sets her up for failure with the whole like, look, if you get your chores done, which is going to be numerous, and you get a dress, how's she going to make a dress with all those chores? You can go. So she's so busy with the chores. Thankfully, one of the two plot-relevant things these mice actually do, the mice rally the troops, and they make her a dress. And I love this detail. Completely forgot about it. The dress, and makes the later moment all the stronger.
Uh-huh.
The dress is made out of the unwanted pieces of the stepsisters' attires.
Sure.
That was it's symbolic that it's a dress for an unwanted girl.
Mm-hmm. And then Tremaine's like manipulation over the situation, like even goes as far as like when the Duke, or I don't think the Duke shows up again, but when the carriage comes to take them to the ball, and Tremaine is like, "But child, are you not going?" It's like the bitch like has the nerve to act like she's genuinely like concerned that Cinderella can't go. You know what I mean?
Evil.
Okay, then we got to talk about, I think, the scene. Say everything you want about how much the remake improved stuff. This tearing up the dress scene is so impactful.
It's so violent without anyone actually being hit.
And it's actually quicker. Like, honestly, rewatching it, like, I was actually kind of surprised just how quick it hits, just because, like, I feel like it's ingrained in everyone who watches it, right? Like, that imagery is, like, seared into you. And just, frankly, like, the live-action remake, they barely tried to make it dramatic, honestly. So it's like little moments like that, and that might be like because it is Cinderella's low of low, and so I don't know, it's like it's hard for me to say that the remake is objectively the better movie when moments like this hit so much harder in the animated version. But
yep.
Then we're introduced to the fairy godmother. Any words to say about the fairy godmother? I mean, obviously another kind of like mascot of Disney. I think out of all the characters in this movie, she's definitely the closest thing we have to a mascot character.
So I love, well, again, it's the centerpiece scene, where it's so there's a lot of, like you said, we're at the low.
It's kind of crazy that she only does have the one scene. It's like because she does make such a memorable impact.
Yeah. So we're at the low of lows. The dress is torn apart very violently. It's heartbreaking, and that leads to kind of our big moral here. I love that thematically she's at the fountain where she and her father were essentially when they met the Tremaines and everything. So it's a big, impactful location. So she's thinking of her father, where she's kind of clinging on to hope, but right now she's at kind of the lowest point. Then fairy godmother shows up again, like the original Deus Ex Machina. Well, sorry, not the original. That was the Blue Fairy. It's the second. Deus Ex Machina. The point being, they're I can imagine the fairy. Yeah, what do you think? You think fairy godmother and the blue fairy actually get coffee or something? You think they hang out?
I could see it. I honestly, that's probably a missed opportunity from Once Upon a Studio. Just those two interacting.
Yeah. So the fairy godmother is a hallmark of Disney in that
I can see the fairy godmother being like the kind of like out of the two of them, the more like loose one who like
Yeah,
wants to go out to the bars, and the and the blue fairy's like, no, I gotta get to sleep. I got kids, sorry, but you go, you have
yeah.
fun. I could see that being their dynamic.
All right, so basically, the fairy godmother hallmark at Disney, it's rewarding the faith and optimism, aka something Walt talked about a lot, and I
I mean,
really
Walt Disney loved this character in the same way that he loved Feed the Birds. It's like it really spoke to him.
yeah. So this kind of feeds into something that Walt Disney talked about a lot with the unspoiled spot, which is kind of like what he was going for with the entertainment. Is that unspoiled spot where he's, it's like it doesn't matter if it's children or adults, it's just going to be that warm and fuzzy. It's just kind of like you go to a movie theater, you go into a story, and you're just kind of transported. And it's just about kind of that kind of that pure, it's kind of that wholesomeness, and that's very much kind of what the centerpiece of the film is about.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, which always cracks me up that just to show you the widespread impact of Cinderella. Years later, Kira Toriyama, he's coming up with like the Boo Saga. You have
Yep,
literally
yep,
Bibbidi
yep.
Bobbidi Boo, and they gag on this movie. But yeah, I mean it's really the movie in terms of all the stuff we get her so she can go to the ball. This movie is iconic for the dress. For the
And
fashion.
that dress transformation scene, do you know the significance of the dress transformation moment?
I know that. Okay, so Mark Davis did the animation on that,
Mm-hmm.
and Walt loved it.
It was Walt Disney's favorite piece of Disney animation that was achieved in his lifetime.
It is pretty
All-time
magical.
favorite Disney animated moment for him.
Yeah, I forgot just how definitive it was, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty cool. So as I'm saying, but again, the thing about the impact of this, Steve, where every girl since the '50s who
Oh, yeah.
saw it, every girl saw this movie. This is like birth the prom essentially. This birth the prom and the wedding and everything. Like from they get the magical dress, the magical evening, just every dream date or ball or any social event. It was
Mm-hmm.
birthed from this moment, just with and plus painful footwear.
Oh, man. Yeah. I love how thrilled she is about the glass slippers, as if it's not going to hurt like a bitch the whole night.
Yeah. Again, the glass slippers looks pretty, but it's such a terrible idea. Anyway, so then of course we have like a lot of fun things, like the pumpkin turns into the carriage, the mice into horses, the horse into the coachman, which is really
I
messed
love
up.
that little detail. That's fun.
It's really
And then
messed up.
Bruno the dog. We haven't talked about Bruno, so we don't talk about Bruno.
No.
He gets transformed into essentially the little lackey guy that opens the carriage door. I gotta say, kind of a thankless role to give Bruno.
You know what we say to Bruno, Tiki?
No, no, no.
No. Well, yes, but no. We say Silencio, Bruno.
Ah, yes, there we go.
Yeah.
I love how both those movies, I'm pretty sure, came out in the same year.
Uh-huh. I still say Silencio, Bruno is the better.
Mhm.
That's just me.
I mean, seriously, a Bruno must have really pissed off somebody at Disney during that time period.
Yep, he betrayed the shareholders, Tiki.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so again, so the glass. Here's okay. This is where I overanalyze the glass slipper, by the way. So buckle up. The glass slipper, one could say, maybe symbolic of how baubles and dressings distract us from what's important and the inner beauty. It's kind of like Clark Kent with the glasses to an extent. It's the whole thing of like, if you really, it's kind of the thing of like, it's glass. We can clearly, in a sense, we can kind of clearly see there's no real disguise, just her hair's done up a little differently. But that's Cinderella. It's the same girl. We've given again the movie. I think a lot of people from the '50s onward, just in general, I think have really identified the movie because again, people come. It's the original rags to riches story for like one night. It's a one night only kind of like it's kind of what if you had the wealth and everything you ever dreamed of.
You know what
like,
my favorite part of this all is that I Dragon, it's so heartwarming to me just how grateful Cinderella is, and it's like in retrospect, it is like sure it's an amazing night, but it's like it's one night out of her terrible existence, and she's so grateful for it.
Yeah, it's not a Faustian bargain like we so often do with this kind of thing. Like, okay, I'm going to give you this, and if you want more of it, you got to do stuff. We're not doing that. You know, it's no strings attached. You know, kid, it's just karma coming back at you in a good way. So you know, my name is Earl. This, you're gonna go to the ball.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just the fact that again, like the glass slipper is sort of like just this. It's like it's little shiny glass. But again, it's like it's still showing what was there underneath all the whole time. So like she's not impressing the prince with like everything that she's got. It's like it's the person, not the not.
Do you think Tarantino loves glass slippers because it's like, ooh, yeah, it's footwear, but I also get to see all the, I get to see what you're working with.
It's not documented, but I think he would like it. You know, he could use it in an action sequence. That's what I'm saying. He would
All right, I'm gonna shout out Sonia Pantoja here. She's saying, I especially love the design of the glass slippers in both the 1950 Cinderella and 2015 live action remake. They were absolutely beautiful. She also says, I love the pink dress that Cinderella was supposed to wear with a bow in the middle of the dress. It's designed, I would picture myself.
Yeah, it's the humble. It's a lovely humble dress before it is destroyed beyond recognition. Which, by the way, I love when those being destroyed. And I kind of forgot about this. The whole recycled elements, which is that Tremaine turned the daughters against her, saying, "Look at the dress," and then of course they flip out. That's mine and mine, and
and all this stuff they were just like hours ago totally disposing of.
They didn't care whatsoever. They tossed it aside, just spoiled, rotten, ugly stepsisters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's kind of like the classic sibling dynamic of like, if you go to play with one of the older siblings' toys that they have no interest in at the time, suddenly it's like, but that's my Reptar!
Exactly. All right, so we go to the ball. We meet Prince Charming as the Duke is like.
I just want to point out, I think the scenes on the castle grounds definitely have like the absolute best quintessential Mary Blair background art of the movie. And like I said, I think Mary Blair is more well known for like being abstract with stuff like Wonderland. Obviously Peter Pan was more so kind of like childhood imagination. It's a Small World is very abstract. This is more. It's cool to see Mary Blair's art style in a more traditional like fairy tale setting. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she really nails it. I think she really nails the elegance of this location. All right.
All right, yeah. So we're at the ball. We have this great gag where the Duke is like scoffing at like exactly what's going to happen. He's just listening. Oh well, you imagine it was going to go this way, and the king is just like getting a front row seat. Oh my god, it's working! It's like it's love at first sight.
The Duke and the King have like more screen time than the actual prince, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yep.
They literally have like an entire subplot, and the prince has like a scene.
Well, it's the real love story after all, Tiki.
Right.
Yep. It's a platonic love story, but still.
Sure.
Anyway, so yes,
the king's wife is dead.
Oh, come on.
I mean, he's looking for something to fill the void.
Anyway.
All right.
So.
Oh, you could just write an erotic fan fiction out of that.
I'll say the whole movie. It's Tarantino's remake of Cinderella. We have homoeroticism and we have foot fetishes.
All right.
Also, possibly killing a cat, but
Right.
All right, anyway, so yes, the point being, the Prince Cinderella, they hit it off.
I do think it's a really nice, like, people give it a lot of shit. And honestly, I think it is kind of a nice equivalent of, like, I will say I think the romance works a lot better than it does in Snow White. I will give it that much credit. I do think at least they are given time to actually, like, genuinely get to know each other.
They have a night together, at least.
Right, because with Snow White, it's literally just, like, a hello, and she runs off. Like, I mean,
it's like, hey, I'm going to sing about you showing up.
To hold your hat on there with that relationship.
Like, I'm going to sing about you showing up. You say hello, I run away.
Exactly.
That's about it. That's
the one thing with Snow White that I'll give credit for is that I've always kind of thought that it's implied that they've kind of had a flirtmance going on with each other for a while before the movie starts. That's kind of always been my headcanon.
I mean that's a good headcanon. It makes it better if that were
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so they have Cinderella and the Prince. This is interesting. It's kind of this compared to the remake. Something interesting happens here. So I like that she. It's kind of weird, but I kind of like it that she doesn't recognize this guy as the prince. She just thinks he's a nice man that she met at the ball. I kind of like that.
I
It
like
does.
that. And honestly, if I were the prince, that would be that'd be one of the main things I'd actually be attracted to her with, you know?
Yeah, so that's great. I do kind of wonder if she's not picking up on the cues. Everyone's meeting this guy. The whole point of the ball was that everyone's going to meet
She
the
just thinks he's
prince.
a player, Dragon.
Okay.
And she doesn't mind it. She likes the confidence.
Actually, I will redact my statement because the whole thing was just the maidens were going to show up, and they weren't like told you're going to show up, you're going to meet the prince. But I think she didn't really know the
Right,
prince is
right,
going to be
right.
there. So I'll give it. Okay, you know what? That makes it a little better. I was thinking about that. However, the same problem exists here. That it just feels like um the big challenge of the Cinderella story period, even the live action remake struggled with this. I think they made a better attempt at it in terms of like the one glaring flaw of the Cinderella story, really, and all that in the lovely time they spent together. At no point does he ask Cinderella's name.
Yep,
That's
yep.
always the big flaw of the story. That at least the two of the 2015 movies credit. Okay, at least they met each other, and I don't know. I remember like I think she says her name's Ella when they first meet each other, but they don't do the I don't. Okay. He knows that it's her at the ball, but it's like it's fine here. We have other loops to
I mean,
jump
if you
through.
want to get more into it as far as like plot holes and stuff go, frankly, I've always thought that the whole like, oh, let's find the
Yeah, I
glass
know,
slipper, like that is like an ordeal, man.
but that they're
Just
stuck with
bring,
that
just
because
literally all you have to do, Dragon, is bring back all the women that were in attendance at the party, bring them back to the castle,
mhm.
and just have the prince be like, okay, which one was it? That's all you have
Well,
to
they're
do.
well, they're all gonna say it was them, Tiki. However, unless he's smart, he's gonna say the one that
No,
was
but
not involved.
the prince is not a fucking unless the prince is like a total like brain dead fucking moron. He's he's going to be
Little
able.
aggressive, Tiki. Just little aggressive.
I'm just saying he's going to be able to, at the very least, like be able to visually identify this woman. You would
I
hope.
know that's Tiki. This is what I'm saying. No matter what you do with this story, between this and between the and between the remake, it's always the thing
I
of
mean,
like,
yeah, there
okay,
is
he's
something like very ceremonial about the whole like if the shoe fits thing. Sure, there's something symbolic about it,
no,
but
no, no. Here's what I'm just saying that it's this weird story wall that every time you adapt it, you're like, okay, so clearly the prince saw her and he could easily identify her, so we have to come up with some BS for why he can't be in the same room as her.
right, right.
Here's something I completely forgot about that I felt was kind of odd. Okay, so we have the big slipper moment, and I think it's really weird that we're gonna sick the horses on her so she doesn't get away. I kind of forget. Here's the I know she's got to get home before while she still has a carriage. I remember that.
Uh-huh.
That's great. It just feels like I completely forgot that. Oh man, she was being pursued rather aggressively
Right.
by a
Right.
number of menacing-looking horses.
It was a different time. It was a different time, you
Yeah,
know.
sure. Let's just do it. Sick the
We just
horses on her.
we couldn't let women leave the castle on their own accord,
Yeah, we
Dragon.
we
They don't know how to get home
we,
safely.
we,
They
we,
need to
we
be
did
escorted.
we did caveman engagement stuff. We bashed her on the head and we dragged her all the way back. That's how we did it. Anyway, so but it is it's a great dramatic exit though.
Mm-hmm.
And of course like the whole missing the shoe thing, which by the way
You
begs
know,
the
another
question.
another detail that I really love is I love how after that big pursuit and all the drama and the action and everything, Cinderella is like she's not distraught at all. She's just like elated. She's over the fucking
Yeah,
moon.
she had a
How
great
evening
time.
she had.
She knew she's no dummy. She knew it was temporary. She had a good
There's
time.
just there's just something like I mean that is like why I think the character is like held up is like she knows that she's gonna have to go back to her shitty existence now, and she knows that like by all intents and purposes for all she knows she's never gonna be able to see the prince again, but just that memory, just that one night is like I don't know, there's something so endearing and like kind of like triumph of the human spirit about that. And I really do feel like as a post-war movie, we didn't really get into it that much, but Cinderella really is the perfect story to adapt into a post-war climate, isn't it? Like as far as like the optimism.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you're right though. Again, it's just kind of this again, she knew it was temporary. She had a night of her life, and yeah, she just go back to it knowing that okay, it's kind of the Quasimodo thing. It's like just one day out there, and she had her one day out, her one night out there.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so there's always here's another thing too. So with the slipper, okay. So obviously, again, it's the BS of like, okay, I do like there is a bit of an addressment here, okay. After a really wonderfully kind of psychotic scene where the king is trying to kill the duke for like giving him the bad news, gives him all the cigars and everything. Just again, it's great character animation. Again, maybe something
It
he
very
didn't
much
need, but
reminds me of the scene in Sleeping Beauty where the two kings are like playfully dueling each other, except this king's serious.
That's what I'm saying. Like, here's this is great character animation. It's a lot of fun. Admittedly, do we need it? Probably not. But is it funny? I'll take it over the mice. Anyway, so we do address the one logical in the whole shoot pursuit thing where the king just says, "I don't care." He said, "We promised. Look, he gave his word. He's gonna marry." Because the duke points out, like, "Well, wait, how do we? There are other women who's probably gonna have the same." The foot size that would fit the slippers. Hey, he gave his word. Worked good enough for me.
Right. It doesn't matter if if he actually ends up with the girl that he had the, really nice connection with. Fuck that.
But hey, so long as she can fire out kids, I'm good.
Oh, God, Jesus Christ.
She's got a working uterus, I'm down.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so, but here's the thing. So again, with that in mind, it makes you wonder. The whole point of the movie is that she loses the slipper. So, is it from the running or ultimately? Because she does it twice. You lose the slipper twice when going downstairs, and the second time she's not really running. And you have to wonder, maybe it's the foot. Maybe the slippers don't really fit well, and that does beg the question: like, they really lucked out in the hole. It looked like it fit. Maybe it really didn't fit though.
I mean, my whole thing with wearing the slipper is like if you like step on a crack and you like fall, like what if the fucking thing breaks and goes into your foot?
Well, it's a terrible design, Tiki.
Yeah.
It looks pretty. It's highly impractical. I shouldn't say a terrible design, but I'm saying it's a beautiful design, but it's a display piece, man. It's like this is like a thing you decorate a shoe store with. You don't put that on your foot.
Do you think that they were inspired by the ruby slippers?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah,
I think so. We can't make it rubies, but
Uh-huh.
Because that'd be copyright infringement.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so point being, I love the Tremaine. Even at the party, like we have this fun, like the fun conveniences where it's like she can't get a good look at her, but she's kind of on the scent, and then Cinderella's happy when she hears about like the quest to find the matching foot. She's Tremaine is she puts it together and she locks her eyes. Love how smart Tremaine is.
Yeah, and I love how fucking dramatic it is when
the green eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the creepy.
Like she realizes what Tremaine's doing, and she's just she just loses it at that point. Yep. Like, no, you just can't. You just can't. I mean, that's the thing about Cinderella as far as like her character is like she puts up with so much bullshit, but I do like that she's not a pushover inherently. Like when push comes to shove, when there's like a true, and obviously everything that she goes through is an injustice, but like when there's something that's just so inherently wrong, like she will put her foot down, stand up for herself, and like, really, really get into it,
Yeah. So yeah, it's just really cruel what she does there, basically holding her prisoner while like her big moment. Again, it's so cruel too, just the idea like this was your big moment and I'm denying you this very knowingly. So you're gonna hear it all unfold, but you won't be able to do anything. And of course the mice, we have kind of the mice rescue. Goes on a little bit, but again, it's only because I'm sick of all the other padding. Otherwise it's fine. So again, I love the big kudos to this. This is not from the original story. It's only original to the film. That is huge. Tremaine tripping the guy so the shoe smashes. That's a great matchstick moment. One of the original matchstick moments. Like, oh my god, the shoe is broken. Then you realize
I actually kind of had that thought as well when I was watching. It's like, is that like one of the original Disney matchstick moments right there?
Might be. And anyway, so we have the second. Well, it's a pair of shoes, so of course she's got the other one. But I love that the Duke kind of knew already, even before she put the shoe on, that it was her. I think that's
Yeah,
important.
totally. Well, I mean, the Duke's not fucking stupid. The Duke
Yeah,
is arguably the most intelligent person in this whole universe.
yeah.
Like, like he has eyes. He saw them together.
So I love that he's getting excited. I love how devastated he was. Like, oh no, the proof. The
Uh-huh.
cookie jar is shattered, to quote Great Muppet Caper. It is gone.
Okay, Richard Victims does make a good point here. He's saying the glass shoes have been part of the original story, and the ruby slippers were an addition just for the 1939 film. So I don't think so. So you want to be an Imagineer? I mean, that's true. That is true. I do wonder. I do wonder if like in the writers' room they were kind of like, oh, we lucked out. These ruby slippers are hot right now, and this is also an iconic shoe. You know what I mean? At the very least, I think they were probably like happy about like the coincidence of it all, that in the pop culture zeitgeist there just happened to be like a very iconic movie shoe. Okay, and Richard's Victims is also she will put her foot down, hopefully not when she's wearing the glass slippers. Oh god.
Can you imagine just like
Family Guy cutaway joke waiting to happen, Dragon, like Cinderella and the prince like in bed together, like, I'm gonna put my foot down on this. And then she just like, ah! And then the prince just like in the obvious, like just Seth MacFarlane voice, like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Right.
so yeah, married John McClane.
I don't know. I didn't really think this through. Fuck.
Do you want to go to the hospital? Yes. Yep.
Oh man. See, Family Guy cutaway jokes really are easy to write, anyways. Okay, so yes, we get the big reveal. It is Cinderella. The shoe does fit and all that. Very, very, very rushed wedding at the end, don't you think?
Well, again, like, hey, maybe we want to have Prince make his I do's or say, oh, how she's impacted. Like, no, wait, they never spent any time. They only spent that one night
Right.
together. We don't have anything to have marriage vows, but so we gotta speed through this wedding.
I mean, I feel like the ending of Robin Hood has an equally rushed marriage, but like at the very least, those two have history together, man. They've got more history than most Disney couples.
Hey, Marion. You know.
Yeah.
So they have the wedding, ill-fitting shoe again. She loses it on the rundown.
Right.
And one of the original Happily Ever Afters.
Indeed. Okay, well, that's about all she wrote. Dragon, any final thoughts on this?
I mean, look, again, we've raked the mice over the coals, but aside from that, again, what works about this movie does really work. It's 50s Disney is underrated, man. It always has been underrated. I mean, think about it, you got a really solid lineup.
The Tramp hit harder for me than I thought it would when I was doing my Great Disney Ranking podcast rewatch for that.
Yeah. I mean, you think
Lady and the Tramp is essentially Main Street USA the movie, which really struck me on a rewatch.
Yeah.
There's like the atmosphere. Anyways.
But that's the thing. So, it's like 50s Disney, you got like Cinderella and Peter Pan specifically. Like they're bailing Disney at a very, very sensitive time. Very like a very precarious kind of position in the company's history. One of the original precarious positions where it's like so interesting that it would be such a tipping point. It could all go away. It was very much kind of like it was kind of like Pixar in its early days, where Pixar did have an imperative, like if you guys do make a flop, like a true flop, you could be wiped off the face of the earth. That was the actual stakes, like in the pre re-up from the pre Disney buyout. So to see that Disney was kind of in that position itself years back, it is really interesting, and I think it goes to show that Cinderella, and it saved the medium. It's an important film in the tomes of Disney history. It kept the flame going. There's something, again, I think it embodies what Walt was going for with that unspoiled spot. I wish it was a little less key jangly with the mice, but aside from that, wonderful film.
I honestly would be interested to see what an edit of this movie would be like, where you essentially cut out like 10 minutes of the mice stuff, and it would still be like a little over an hour long, which is about the runtime of something like a Dumbo or a Snow White. So it would still technically be feature length. I think it would play a lot better, because honestly, I think all the stuff in this movie revolving around Cinderella is wonderful. I think Cinderella is like a quintessential like Disney role model, and I don't think she gets enough credit for that. I think
No.
people are always like so quick to jump on like, oh, Belle and Jasmine are the start of the independent Disney princesses, but it's like, no, if you watch this movie, man, there is a lot to admire about this girl and what she goes through and her attitude and her resilience. There's a lot to admire here. There's a reason why this princess is as iconic as she is. And especially like if you look at it culturally through that post-war perspective, Tremaine is, I think, easily like top 10 Disney villains, no question. Probably top 5, honestly. I love the atmosphere. I love the Mary Blair stuff, and even Lucifer does kind of like make the mouse stuff, even though it's a little bit padded out, at least kind of watchable. So yeah, it's not the most quintessential movie for me personally when it comes to the Walt era. I think, like I said, I'll take stuff like Peter Pan or Alice in Wonderland any day of the week over this, with all due respect to this. But I think just when you look at it from a pure like historical and cultural significance point of view, this is like right up there with Snow White. It's like the most important movies that Walt Disney ever made. Like it's right up there with something like Snow White or Mary Poppins. It's like it's one of the absolute big dogs as far as just like pure reputation, relevance, significance, all that. So yeah. All right. Little Blue says, speaking of Robin Hood, the sound of the bells in Cinderella were reused in Robin Hood. I am not surprised. I am not surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised if the actual shot of the church bells was reused.
Yeah, they reused everything in that movie.
All right. Let's see. I'm just doing a quick perusing as far as I think I got most of the relevant comments that aren't just conversation. Go Gias is kind of making a point earlier about Hunchback being the first great Disney movie, which, I mean, again, Go Gias, love you, man. I think that's kind of insane. You're saying like stuff like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King isn't great, really? I mean, Walt era stuff I could kind of see not being your taste, but like, come on, man. Anyways, yeah, but I don't want to harp on that too much. Insert the prince jumping out of the window. Well, I should have had that clip ready to go. You're right, Eli. All right. Okay, but yeah, big thanks to Eli of Little Blue Productions, Richard's Victims, Sonia Pantoja, Code Gios, and I think that's it. And Keeper Colby. Very brief cameo from Keeper Colby. All right. You all have been great. This has been a really fun time. Honestly, a lot more engagement than I thought this was going to get. So, yeah, happy 75th anniversary to a true landmark of an animated masterpiece. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Remember, a dream is a wish your heart makes.